Hey everyone, we're doing some worksheet prep for worksheet 26 with classifying triangles. So the front right here is straightforward as to side length names and angle measure names. Down here, I want to remind you that you're classifying each triangle by angles and by sides, and those names are up there too, but the angle names are acute if you have three 90-degree angles, obtuse if you have one greater than 90 degrees, or right. So those are your angle names. You could also have this one up here. It says equiangular if all three angles are marked congruent. Okay, that is by angles. And by sides, you would be using the terms scaling if all the sides are different lengths. Isosceles if you have two sides that are congruent, and equilateral if you have three sides marked congruent. And remember, if it is equilateral, it is equiangular. So you could use that also, but go by the markings, okay? So make sure you look at the angle measures you're given as well as the markings you're given. So for example, this one has three angles. Notice that the base angles are equal in these sides. So by sides, it's an isosceles triangle. And by angles, they are all less than 90 degrees. So it is an acute triangle. So make sure you name all of these appropriately. Okay, let's flip it over and look at the back. One of the big issues that we have is we see this and we say, oh, it's an equilateral triangle, all the angles are equal, and then people want to set this equal to 60. You're not setting this equal to 60. The angle measures are 60. We're talking about the side measure. So all three sides should be congruent. So in this case, you're just going to pick two. Maybe I pick these two, and I'm going to say that z plus 5 should be equal to 4z minus 4. Your neighbor might set these two equal or these two equal. We should all get the same value for z, but you're not done once you get the value for z. It says find the side of the lengths. So once you solve for z, you have to plug it back in and find the length of the sides. So you're going to have a z equal, and then so I'm going to mark that here, and then you're going to have the length of the sides. Now, all three of these will be the same, and that's not always the same. So we'll say side lengths. Okay, so you have two spots that you need for answers here. I just wanted to remind you of that. This one's an isosceles triangle, so these two are going to be equal to each other. All right, now give you a couple tips on this next problem. An isosceles triangle. Okay, as soon as I see that, I'm going to draw my isosceles triangle where I have two congruent sides and two base angles that are congruent. It says it has a perimeter of 34. Now remember, perimeter is the distance if we walk around the outside. The congruent sides measure 4x minus 1. Okay, so 4x minus 1, and this one is also 4x minus 1. The length of the third side is just x centimeters. Okay, find x. So again, I don't need to know anything about the angle measures. These are equal to each other, but that's not going to help me because of the same thing. What's going to help me is if I add up all three sides. So the 4x minus 1 plus 4x minus 1 plus the third side, x, is equal to 34. Now, I truly don't need all of this. Some of you will just walk around and say I have 4, 5, 9x. I have -1, so 9x minus 2 equals 34. And then you need to solve it from there and find x. And that is all it asks you to do. So once you find x, you are done. But you could plug it in and find the length of each side. Okay, tip on 17. You need to read this. What is the length of the side of an equilateral triangle? Okay, let's sketch an equilateral triangle. All three sides are equal. All three angles are equal. Now, I'm not worried about the angle. It says it has a perimeter. Okay, so perimeter is equal to 36 2/3. Now, let's just think about this. If all three sides are equal, and we call them x, that would be x plus x plus x. That would be 3x equals 36 2/3. So I just have to solve for x and see which one it is. Now you have a calculator, you can put this in. If not, you might want to change this to an improper fraction, and then instead of dividing, you multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, big thing here. Which one is not a correct classification of this? So be careful with that one.